Welcome to this video about the Borough Plan and fighting the sham consultation. My name is Cllr Keith Kondakor. The aim of this video is to give an introduction as to what the Borough Plan is, how we got here, tell you about what is planned for Wellington and St Nicholas Park, how to comment on the Borough Plan, and tell you about what's going to happen next. Having a plan for the borough is a very useful thing. It should actually provide a sensible guide as to how we sustainably develop our town. Having a borough plan should enable us to have funding for future education needs, to improve our transport system, to provide health facilities, to provide for sports and recreation, and a whole host of other things which should be provided as part of a sensible plan for a sustainable borough. The Borough Plan development was started 7 years ago after the development of the 2006 local plan. In 2009 there was an issues and options consultation which around 600 people took part in. Since then the process has been pretty much stalled. The plan however was ready to go to the public in March 2013. Unfortunately it was put on the shelf for several months while the local elections took place, and the actual formal consultation only started in July. The Borough Plan is driven by a Borough Plan working group. This has 6 Labour members and 2 Tory members, though the 2 Tory members are currently not going to events. The areas highlighted for development in the Borough Plan were leaked in maps put out in the press in March 2012. A key thing is the Borough Plan is based upon a farcical idea that we can create 12,000 jobs in the borough by 2028. The Borough Plan is based upon an economic spreadsheet produced by Oxford Economics. This spreadsheet is a tool to predict how many jobs and how many houses we will need in the future. The level of employment growth in Nuneaton and Bedworth is about 0.25% a year on average. The economic model was run however with 0.5%, 1% and now 1.5% growth every year in employment. This created the fictitious 12,000 jobs the Borough Plan Working Group expects us to see over the next 15 years. However, the economy hasn't grown as expected by this miraculous plan, and as many people know, we've had a hard few years in Nuneaton and Bedworth. We are miles behind the growth target, and the Borough Plan is based upon about 4.25% growth in the Nuneaton and Bedworth economy in 2013. Obviously the local economy is pretty stagnant. The flawed economic assumptions used to develop the Borough Plan, creating 12,000 jobs in 18 years, produces a housing requirement of 7,900 homes. Obviously a lower target for jobs would create a lower target for housing. Of the 7,900, many already have planning permission. Approximately 2,780 have potential sites already in mind, and 570 were actually completed in the first 2 years of the plan. Most noticeably, however, most of these homes completed were in Nuneaton, and most of the available supply is also in Nuneaton. Of the target of 7,900 homes, around 5,000 would need to be found from new sites. The Borough Council has been looking at 9 sites which were leaked to the press in March 2012. These were PDA 1 to PDA 9. PDA 1 is opposite Nicholas Park, PDA 2 is between Wellington and the Judkins site, PDA 3 is on Golf Drive, etc., as you can see from the map. Recently the council has added a 10th site, PDA 10, which is between Higham Lane and the main part of Wellington. These 10 sites were discussed in the secretive Borough Plan Working Group meetings. The council's planning policy officers took forward 5 of these sites as their evidence-based recommendation for allocation. These sites were at Gypsy Lane, Arbury, Hospital Lane, Bridges End, the Woodlands in Bedworth and off School Lane in Cllr. However, when the working party met, 3,000 homes were moved out of Labour-controlled areas and onto land north of Nuneaton, and the sites at Bedworth Woodlands and in Cllr at School Lane were taken out of the allocation. These allocations are not based on evidence now and would effectively make the plan lopsided. This map shows the officers' recommended sites for housing allocations. They are basically along the corridor between Nuneaton and Junction 3 of the M6. All of them would be relatively close to the employment sites, and the evidence base suggests that this is the best place to site additional housing. This map shows the allocation suggested by the Labour-controlled Borough Plan Working Group. The working group had 6 members from the Labour Party who basically pushed all the housing away from Bedworth and Labour-controlled areas into the area north of Nuneaton. So the new siting is 3,000 homes in areas PDA1, PDA10 and part of PDA2. This housing is on top of the 326 that got planning permission through the Hallam's public inquiry. This map shows the overall housing allocations in orange and the new employment sites in a horrible purple colour. As you can see, the housing is well removed from the location of employment, and it just shows how disjointed the plan is, with all the housing basically as far as possible from the new employment land. Zooming in on Wellington and St Nicholas Park, the red areas on this map show the area on which they wish to build 3,000 homes. The new distributor road is shown dashed across from the Wellington Road, across Home Lane, and then down to the long chute just where the old post office used to be. These 3,000 homes are on top of the Hallam's development site, which is marked in sort of brown purple colour on the diagram. And you can see how the new development dwarfs the existing estates. The biggest impact of this ridiculous borough plan is going to be on the air quality and the traffic. The various studies haven't been completed for the plan, but studies of other variants of it show that a significant 50 to 100% increase in traffic in the Leicester Road driveway to AQNA, air quality margin area, is to be expected. The road, taken from near the Nuneaton Football Club ground over into Golf Drive, would cost around £10 million, and it's very likely the total transport cost of this plan would be around £45 million. As we said again, most of the houses are in the north, most of the jobs are in the south. This is going to be an almighty traffic jam. It's also interesting to see some of the maps they did before the plan was released. One of them shows them trying to put 5,600 homes in the area north of Nuneaton. This map shows the traffic impact of putting all the houses north of Nuneaton. With 5,600 houses north of Nuneaton, there is over 1,000 extra cars in the rush hour on the road shown in purple. Some of them may be up to 2,000 extra cars in 1 hour. And of course, developing all the areas from the top of Tuttle Hill at Windmill Corner right the way round to the long chute will produce a through route that will generate significant traffic. As you can see, this map shows the road they're proposing to take into Golf Drive in purple on the right hand side of Nuneaton. This map shows a more sensible alignment of housing allocations. The allocations in the blue areas are all to the south of Nuneaton Town Centre, and you can see that the roads under greatest stress do not pass through the air quality monitoring zones, and you can see how well they link into employment sites. This, however, was rejected by the Borough Plan Working Group, as too much houses were going to be in sensitive labour controlled areas. How to complain. It is obviously very important that as many people as possible send a letter or an email, keeping a copy themselves, to the Planning Policy Department. You need to be very careful of their email address. It is planning.policy@nuneaton and bedworth.gov.uk. Please note where the dots are. Also, please take part in my survey and keep watching our website www.openplan.org.uk. Do contact your MPs and councillors. It is very important that the feelings of the town are made known, and this isn't an issue that gets forgotten. Do write your own letters and emails in your own way. Consider what issues are very important to you. Personal comments and details about your area are very important. But planners do not consider things that you might lose, like your view, and they do not consider any arguments about who might live here or arguments like that. So try and keep your arguments to planning issues about the roads, schools, the doctors, flooding, and all these issues. And I've produced a few guides to some of the issues I was going to be raising. Some of the possible hundreds of issues with the Borough Plan in general include the employment growth target of 12,000 jobs, which is clearly impossible, facts about the local economy and how it's weaker than other parts of Warwickshire and other regions within the UK. We can also comment about housing targets and how targets around 4,000 to 5,000 will be more realistic for the borough's own needs between 2010 and 2028. We can mention that more houses are actually needed in the town centres and to be built on brownfield sites. We also need more focus on housing for the over 65s, as the working age population in the borough is very static. We're actually seeing a large increase in people living longer. No bad thing, but that should be reflected in the type of houses we're building. And also the houses, they're far too far from employment sites and from the existing infrastructure. We also need to talk about retail things. The Borough Plan talks about building 2 more rope walks or the equivalent, when in fact we've got a massive shift towards shopping on the internet. And the housing allocations haven't taken any notice of what people said in the 2009 consultation. So please make the council aware that it's ignored your views last time. You also need to make the planning policy officers aware of the local issues. In my area, on Weddington and St Nicholas Park, we've recently had 510 homes given planning permission. So there's already some housing on the way here, unfortunately. The air quality management area will particularly suffer from the traffic coming over the Leicester Road Bridge. The Leicester Road gyratory just cannot cope going into the bridge. We need far more infrastructure here in Weddington and St Nicholas for connecting us than building homes elsewhere. Obviously, Myra will have an impact, but its impact on local housing has been exaggerated. If they do create 2,000 jobs at Myra, only a fraction of those people will be living in Nuneaton, and I expect them to be spread out over the whole of the town. Employment needs to be focused on where we're building new railway stations and creating new jobs. And there's new school places being created, but not in Weddington and St Nicholas. And they're ignoring derelict sites. There's a large area of land at the south end of what they call parcel NB14, which is a bit by Judkins. It's waste ground at the moment, and we do need to be pointing out that there are actually better sites to use than our prime countryside. What we can do about the Borough Plan. Firstly, a legal challenge is possible, but legal challenges come after the inquiry, which will happen sometime next year. Obviously, lots of people think the council's guilty of maladministration. There's been a whole load of things that people question, and people can take their own issues up with the council. Maladministration is a very difficult thing to prove, and unfortunately the local government ombudsman basically targets the people who've made large financial losses in terms of those they'd listen to. Obviously I've got my own consultation going and hope to develop an alternative plan. And we also need to reform local governments. The way the houses have just been shoved into this area because we've got a Labour dominated council is grossly unfair, and we need areas to have more of a voice. I would like parish councils to be set up across Nuneaton and Bedworth so that local people look after local areas. And I've got a petition just started for the Wellington and St Nicholas Parish Council. Please sign. Apply lots of pressure also to the candidates to the MP in 2015. These people really need votes, and it may be very close in 2015. Obviously one candidate is Marcus Jones, the MP currently sitting for the Tories. Another candidate announced is Victoria Fowler. She's been on the Borough Plan Working Group and has so far failed to stand up for Nuneaton. So yeah, please write to these people, ring them when you see them down the town. Talk to them about the Borough Plan and how you want it to be a better plan. And also, yeah, there's lots of things we can do in the Localism Act. You can adjust how often you pay your council tax. You can apply for rights to bid to take over council facilities. There's a whole load of things we can do later on. And yeah, any fun ideas would be welcome. After the consultation is over, we'll still be applying continuous pressure to the council. At every opportunity we'll be mentioning how corrupt the Borough Plan process has been and how this plan will be fought all the way. Obviously, yeah, I've done my own alternative consultation and hope to produce an alternative plan. It can't be difficult to make a plan that's more sensible than the one proposed. If the council gets its way and bulldozes this through, they'll have a final consultation early in 2014, just before the local elections, and an inspector will come into what's called an examination in public, which at the earliest could be mid-2014, more likely 2015. So there's lots of things still happening, and yeah, this is going to be a long battle. Thanks for your support, thanks for watching this video, and I'll try to make some more. Bye!